Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. First off, before we get this video started, we're going to talk about a lot of cool things, especially, what I've learned in fishing northern fisheries. But first off, I got a couple announcements. First off, I need to apologize for my nasally voice. It's just not up to snuff today. I've been nursing a cold. No, it's not COVID. I've tested 3 times negative for COVID, so I think we're in the clear as far as that goes. But we've got a little bit of a cold, so we're working on that. But you're just gonna have to listen to this annoying nasally voice throughout this video. And we also have some bulldozer work going on next door, so you're probably gonna hear a little bit of background noise. So the audio in general, not great in this video, but that's okay. We'll work around it. Second announcement I need to make is that I have joined the Fish the Moment team. If you guys haven't been to the Fish the Moment YouTube channel, you're missing out. It's one of the best, most informative YouTube channels out there in the fishing game, and so you got to check that out. But another thing that they have, which is just absolutely just crushing it, is the resources online on their Fish the Moment website. And so fishthemoment.com, you can go on there, and they've got a lot of different things. We're gonna be doing some playbooks this fall that hopefully we'll have out by the end of the year. That I'm going to be working on some playbooks. My buddy Matt Steffen's going to be working on some. Kyle Corniana, and of course they also have Randy Blockett on this as well, and a guy named Jimmy Easterling as well, all working on these different types of content. And then of course you've got the guy that started it all, Johnny Schultz, is going to be doing all this crazy content. Man, this guy is just very, very innovative. He's constantly thinking about a new way to present information and to teach people about fishing. So go check that out. But the one thing I wanted to announce was that we are starting some virtual lessons online. So on the fishthemoment.com website, I think right on their homepage, if you go down, just scroll down a little bit, it says virtual lessons. And what that is you can book a 1-hour exclusive time frame to hang out and talk with myself, Matt Steffen, Jimmy Easterling, and Randy Blockett. You get an hour uninterrupted, hopefully, maybe interrupted, who knows, but you get an hour to talk about anything you want to talk about, ask any questions, and we're going to answer them to the best of our ability. So if you're looking to, say, learn more about Florida fishing, you're going down to Lake Okeechobee and you want to learn more about that, I'm probably your guy. So book me for an hour. If you want to talk about fishing the Mississippi River or fishing some northern fishery, I bet Matt Steffen would be your guy. And so each angler has their own specialty, and so if you're looking for something specific, it'll show you on the website what anglers are known for. And if you just want to book one of us just because you know us, you watch our channels, that's the place to go. But anyways, we got those virtual lessons online on fishthemoment.com. I think that's really exciting. I personally am starting my block of availability in October because I'm heading to Alaska at the end of this week, which you guys are probably seeing this while I'm already in Alaska. So I'll be gone for all of September for my 18th season up in Alaska. So, but I will start taking those bookings in October moving forward. But anyways, just wanted to announce that. All right, so now let's get into talking about northern fisheries and what I've learned over the last several years. I've learned a lot, and a lot of things have really, really surprised me. And when I'm talking about northern fisheries, I'm talking about anything from the Mississippi River near Wisconsin to, the Great Lakes, or fishing Lake Champlain, the St. Lawrence River. All those fisheries have a lot in common. They're very different. Like the Mississippi River is very different than Lake Champlain or the Great Lakes, but there are a lot of common threads that I've seen while fishing those, and that are somewhat unique to that region of the country, that part of the country, all the way up there. And so the first thing that I've really come to learn about northern fisheries is color is very different. So color selection up north is a lot more complex than down south. Maybe not complex. Complex may not be the right term for this, but it's different. It's just different. So obviously, when I'm going up north, I'm still trying to match the hatch. I'm trying to anticipate what these fish are feeding on and try to match my presentation to, you know, whatever those fish are feeding on. It's called match the hatch. We all do it. It's a principle that we all want to apply. And up north, I always felt like it was way more important to match the hatch because in general, the water up north is way clearer than the southern reservoirs. Southern reservoirs can get really, really muddy. Up north, you rarely see really muddy conditions. Mississippi River is a little bit of a you know, anomaly when it comes to that because it is a river system and it does get a little bit you know, dirtier, but it also stays relatively clear a lot of the year as well in a lot of those pools. But you know, I always thought going up north, it's all about, you know, those perch colors or those bluegill colors, or even if they're feeding on alewife, getting that alewife shading just perfect with the lures that I'm using. And one thing that I learned, I'm going to give you a little bit of a scenario that happened several years ago. I was fishing Lake Champlain, okay, and I was on this largemouth pattern. I was in this largemouth area, and I was throwing a bluegill color, and this was during a tournament, so it was under pressure during a tournament, and I had found these fish and I was just crushing them. I could go in there and catch probably 30 fish within an hour and a half. It was insane. It was awesome. And then I was fishing this bluegill colored, you know, chatterbait, jackhammer chatterbait, just crushed them on it. But then all of a sudden that bite completely died. As far as that exact chatterbait, that bluegill bite, they just didn't want that color anymore. Well, I was just about to leave, but instead of leaving, I was like, man, I need to call up one more half pound. That's all I need to feel good about what I have before I go look for some smallmouth. Well, I was like, what can I do to really trigger some more strikes? I thought about maybe switching to black and blue because the water was a little bit more tannic stained, and I was like, man, that's just still a little bit too close to the darker, you know, bluegill color that I was fishing. And then I was like, what the heck? I'm just going to try a white and chartreuse chatterbait. It's something that looks like nothing that those fish are feeding on. We're talking about 3 foot of water, dark water. There's no pelagic bait fish like, you know, shad or alewife in this pocket, in this area. And so I was just like, well, let's try something completely different. I put on that white and chartreuse chatterbait and just started crushing them. I caught another 30 fish. They would not touch the bluegill colored chatterbait anymore. I tried it multiple times during that little stretch of time, but that white and chartreuse, they absolutely obliterated it. They loved that white and chartreuse chatterbait, and it was just something completely different. And I have seen that in multiple situations now up north. You know, down south, I tend to kind of match the hatch a little bit more. You know, other than dirtier water. Dirtier water, you want something that has a big profile. It could be, you know, solid white chartreuse, or black and blue, something like that, that just gives the fish the profile when they get near enough to be able to see it. But for the most part, I'm matching the hatch. There are certain situations where I'm going to be using something crazy like bright red, you know, during the spring, or like a morning dawn, you know, in you know, spotted bass lakes or the TVA or something like that. But in general, I'm sticking with some pretty natural colors, I would say. But another situation that I saw, the same exact thing, where I'm throwing something that really doesn't look like anything that you would normally throw, is fishing for smallmouth. The smallmouth love bright, gaudy baits. You know, baits that just don't look natural at all, you know, white and chartreuses, things like that. And I remember fishing a dirtier, tannic stained river system where you think that, again, that bluegill coloration or black and blue would be the deal, and white and chartreuse was again the deal. I'm not saying that white and chartreuse is the solution for all of your color needs up north. I'm just saying that even in clear water situations, a lot of these fish, especially smallmouth, will attack those brighter colored baits much more viciously than a bait that is matched perfectly to the predominant forage in the area. So that's one of the things that I've learned about northern fisheries and the northern bass. All right, so the next thing that I've learned about northern fisheries, and I'm primarily talking about natural fisheries up north, because that's mostly of what you see up north is, you know, natural rivers and natural lakes, mostly natural glacial lakes. There are some man-made reservoirs up north, but generally those are smaller fisheries and fisheries that I don't normally go to. But the key feature in all these different lakes, I would exclude the Mississippi River and rivers like it, just because grass is a big feature for that, and you can do well in grass by itself. But all the other fisheries, one of the key things that I always look for both smallmouth and largemouth is rock. Rock formations of any kind attract bass. And obviously rock that has a little bit of grass mixed in, that is the key, especially for largemouth. But rock by itself can be very, very productive. So, you know, whether it's giant boulders, which the smallmouth really like, or, you know, just rocky piles that, you know, it could be in 3 foot of water. Then you might have like a rock pile that used to be part of a dock formation, but now it's just kind of discarded, just out in the middle of nowhere on a flat. All types of rock are going to hold bass. It really just depends on, you know, the surrounding area. If you have a huge area that has a ton of rock on it, it's going to be hard to find that one little key area that holds, you know, the majority of the fish. So it's going to be hard to isolate, you know, the group of fish that you're looking for. But you know, if you find like a little patch of rock on a just kind of a featureless flat, man, that's killer. And you know, going out deep and idling around until you find big giant boulders on otherwise featureless, you know, flats or shoals. That is a killer way to catch big smallmouth. So overall, one thing I've learned about northern fisheries is that rock is key. And one thing I need to mention is that rock can be very easy to find on your Navionics maps. If you look on your Navionics maps, there's a couple ways that you can find the rock. A lot of times up north, if you see kind of these types of contours that are kind of long, look like kind of underwater points or something like that, usually, and they have little circles and things like that on them, that's usually denoting an area that has a kind of a scored bottom by the glaciers and really exposes the rocks. And you can also look for the little R letter in some of these areas that denotes rocky bottom. So that is a real quick tip that'll help you find these rocky areas on these northern fisheries using your Navionics app or the mapping on your units. All right, so the next thing I've learned about northern bass is something that really has surprised me. Again, this kind of fits into the whole color debate, but it also comes into just the bait choices in general. You know, a perfect example of this is last year on the St. Lawrence River. Okay, St. Lawrence River is crystal clear, gin clear water, and in gin clear water, you expect to have to finesse these fish. You expect to have to use light line and real, you know, finessey baits, you know, drop shots, Ned rigs and the like, and so I tried a lot of that, and then I ended up in this particular tournament on the Pro Circuit last year, the last event of the regular season. I just finally decided to go for largemouth, and I had seen some tournament footage of guys throwing, you know, chatterbaits in this ultra clear water. I was super skeptical of it because generally chatterbaits to me are a stain to dirty water tactic. To me, down south, that's the situation I'm throwing them in. I rarely throw chatterbaits in gin clear water in the south. But because there was a precedence for it, and because I saw some guys be very successful at it, I decided to just give it a shot. And I was amazed by the success that I had fishing a chatterbait in gin clear water up north. I was fishing this line of docks. I remember this like it was yesterday. Going to this line of docks, just pulling up. I'm like, all right, I've tried smallmouth fishing. It's not going too well. Let's do some small or largemouth fishing, and I cast, you know, make a bad cast to the edge of this dock. I'm probably like 4 or 5 feet from the edge of the dock, which is generally, you know, no man's land. You're not going to catch anything. And I remember getting it to the end of the dock and seeing this just black shadow just dart out from underneath the dock, went that full 5 feet to go grab that bait, and, you know, 4.5 pound small or largemouth. I was blown away, and I proceeded to catch a bunch of fish on the same, you know, line of docks. And I ended up running that pattern in the tournament, and it got me enough to make the championship. But since, I have not been afraid to throw something like a chatterbait, which is generally a dirtier water technique, in the clear water up north. For some reason, fish up north, and it probably has to do with the, you know, how they're frozen in for most of the year, and they're so active and ready to eat during the summertime, that they really aren't as skeptical of baits. But I've learned that you really don't have to get too crazy specific or too crazy finessey for these clear water fish. You can use tactics such as a chatterbait and do very well. And since I have done extremely well using, you know, dirtier water techniques up north in that clear water, the same goes for Lake Champlain recently. Again, I used a chatterbait to catch a lot of fish, both largemouth and smallmouth, moving it very quickly in clear water. So I haven't tried a whole lot of different techniques that I use just in muddy water for the clear water, but the chatterbait was definitely a big surprise. The next thing that I've learned about northern fisheries is that during the summertime, fish live everywhere on these natural fisheries. Now, this can also be applied to, I think, southern natural lakes as well. I think once the spawn happens and those fish are primarily shallow, they disperse into different locations. You know, there's fish that are in a foot of water, and there's fish in, you know, on Lake Champlain. I've caught them as deep as 55, even pushing 60 feet of water. Once you get deep past 25 feet, I think primarily up north you're talking about smallmouth, but I'm not saying the largemouth don't live deep too, but that's primarily smallmouth territory. But in general, the fish just live everywhere. They've got suitable habitat in all depths. So really what that means is that you can fish whatever strength that you have. If you like fishing shallow, you know, shallow water power fishing tactics, flipping, pitching, throwing a top water, throwing a chatterbait, you can do that. Or if you like utilizing your electronics to find offshore smallmouth, you can do that too. So that is one thing that I've really learned and kind of taken to heart. You know, I always felt like, man, to compete, I have to be deep. But this year on Lake Champlain, I really realized that a lot of big smallmouth and largemouth live in that 5 foot or less zone. And a lot of them aren't getting targeted because most people are focusing out deep nowadays with the forward-facing sonar. So it's a whole new depth range that really fits my style, that I can now, you know, go after those fish, you know, up shallow like I like to do. So that is another thing that I've really learned about northern fisheries. But anyways, guys, these are some of the lessons I've learned over the last several years fishing northern fisheries, both rivers and lakes, that I'm going to be applying for many years to come. And I'm still learning about those northern lakes as well. So hopefully these lessons will help you kind of lessen that learning curve and allow you to catch more fish up north as well. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and also make sure you check out those virtual lessons at fishthemoment.com. I'm going to see you out on the water.